The first preseason tournaments rarely surprise with incredible jumps. Usually, skaters approach them far from being at the peak of their form and are definitely not in the mood to show their maximum. And what's the point if there is more than a month before the real showdown for medals at the Grand Prix? But it seems that this was not explained to Ilia Malinin. He went to a small US half-practice tournament, International Classic, where there were neither opponents corresponding to his level, nor a sufficient number of spectators. Surprisingly, it was in such an environment that a new chapter in the history of figure skating was written. Malinin was the first in history to perform a quadruple axel. The main point is that everything is now official. The race for the quadruple axel began back in 2018, when two-time Olympic champion Yuzuru Hanyu began to talk about jumping as a goal for the new Olympic cycle. Russian Artur Dmitriev did not have as many titles as Hanyu. But he did not begin to talk about the possibility of jumping the axel. And I took it and tried it, and without any preparation, in the fall of 2018, Element 4A could be seen for the first time in the protocols from the International Skating Union. That attempt can be called desperate. Dmitriev Jr. trained the quaxel at most for a couple of weeks and immediately began to try. The result, under rotation with a decrease, a fall in the absence of any prospects to master the element quickly. No wonder, because the quadruple axel is much closer in complexity to the 5 than to the usual other quads. It's all about the special technique of the axel. It is the only one of the jumps that is performed forward. But the landing is classic, in the rear stance, so the body in the air makes an incomplete number of revolutions. A quad axel is 4.5 turns in the air, while on the ice it feels like a quintuplet. This feature of the axel has always made it an insidious and complex element. Until now, a limited number of girls own the trixel, and even the queen of quads Alexandra Trusova was able to perform an arbitrary with 5 quads, but she failed to perform a short one with a single axel of 3.5 turns at the Olympics. This mistake cost her gold. Many men also have problems with the triplex, with quads jumping consistently. Based on these considerations, the quadruple axel seemed like science fiction for a long time. But as the development of the senior quads, Lutz, Rittberger and Flip, the question of when humanity will reach the last element of the epoch of quads was the most acute. Hanyu's work on the quadruple axel was hampered by life circumstances and injuries. Dmitriev also could not sit and train in peace. According to Artur, he had several successful attempts in training, but such attempts cannot be presented in the record book. Some kind of revival on the topic of quaxel appeared only last year, after almost 3 years of silence. Dmitriev was the first to resist. Having changed his citizenship to American, he competed at the US Championships and reached the quadruple axel. This time, he practically landed it. However, strict arbitrators saw an under-rotation and put a decrease. Then the element was tried by its chief PR manager Hanyu. Failure again. Yuzuru could not compete with the same Nathan Chen with his basic set, and the risk with the quadruple axel led to a fiasco at the Olympics. Yuzuru was in time trouble and jumped a half-learned element, and it is quite logical that it was unsuccessful. Another thing is the son of Russian-speaking immigrants, Ilia Malinin. Looking at how older comrades miss their moment, Ilia, or rather his parents, began to publish videos with the success of their son. The main audience of their messages were to be the leaders of Skate America. The functionaries of the U.S. Figure Skating Federation decided to neglect the sport's principle and, despite Malinin's well-deserved silver at the U.S. Pre-Olympic Championship, they preferred Jason Brown to him, who had not learned a single quad in his entire life. Malinin began to lay out how he makes cascades of 2 quads without any problems. To obviously show the seriousness of their intentions and the short-sightedness of officials from Skate America. Gradually, the first timid attempts to enter the quadruple axel appeared in his social networks. However, before the World Cup, he was not allowed to take risks with new jumps in training. He waited for the end of the season and continued his studies. The jump obeyed Ilia incredibly quickly. From timid attempts in April to a clean flying jump, He came in less than a month and already in May made the whole world joke about the longevity of Alexei Mishin. Mishin assured that no one would perform a clean quadruple axel in his lifetime. But it was Mishin who trained Yuzuru Hanyu, so why shouldn't he know? Ilia, with his incredible jumps, was helped by another great coach, Raphael Harutyunian. At first, young Malinin was trained by his parents. He grew up in the family of two Soviet Uzbek figure skaters, known for their performances in the 80s and 90s, Tatyana Malinina and Roman Skornyakov. Then, when they realized that they had a great talent in their hands, they turned to Harutyunian, one of the best in cutting young diamonds. Prior to this, the key athlete for Raphael was the last Olympic champion, Nathan Chen. Hanyu definitely decided that he would not return to the sport. He lost the battle for the quadruple axel. Chen is still undecided about his future, but it is also doubtful that we will see him at least in the near future. But in any case, the generation of Hanyu and Chen is gone. Malinin is a man of the next generation, ready to change figure skating. The ease with which he mastered the quadruple axel and performed it is amazing. And that's not all. In the near future we will probably see from him those same combinations of two quadruples, which no one had previously dared to do either, although Chen seems to have coached. The only point, the guy does not always have enough stability. On the same US International Classic, he failed the short program and lost to the Frenchman with a set from the distant 90s. But if anyone is capable of quintuplets, it's him. After all, the quadruple axel is already very close to the 5 jump. Figure skating coach Tatyana Tarasova reacted to the news that 17-year-old American figure skater Ilia Malinin became the first athlete in history to cleanly perform a quadruple axel in competition. We must congratulate Ilia, his coaches for the fact that he performed the quadruple axel in official competitions. I don't think this is a new chapter in men's figure skating, but it's a huge step forward. Before, we went from double jumps to triples, then moved on to other jumps. Now smoothly move on to the 4th axel. We do not stand still, but are constantly improving, said Tarasova. Olympic silver medalist, choreographer Ilya Averbuk congratulated American figure skater Ilia Malinin on his first quadruple axel at the tournament. I'm a little sad that Hanyu didn't have time to show the quad axel in official competitions. I know that he tried to do it at the Olympics, but he failed. It would be a beautiful story of an outstanding figure skater who cut through and took the height. Figure skating has long been ready for such a breakthrough, primarily thanks to the Japanese figure skater. Ilia is certainly a talented athlete with crazy coordination and a history for the most difficult jumps. The quadruple axel in his performance was a matter of time. Figure skating, like everything in our lives, must move forward. And it's moving. In fact, the 4.5 turn jump has long been performed in training. I know that it was performed by the Russian figure skater Artur Dmitriev. But at the competitions, Ilia performed the quadruple axel for the first time, and I congratulate him on this. However, I can't say that I haven't seen these jumps before, said Averbuk.